All righty, here we are. It is Flyers game day, live at the Wells Fargo Center. It's Jason Myrtetus, Brian Smith. We're getting ready for Flyers Wild. And, Bri, I have a hard time coming up with vivid memories of Flyers Wild.
That's because that Max, you've probably only seen it about 15 times here in Philadelphia. This is only their 15th visit here in 22 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
I get mixed up on when this batch of expansion teams came in, because they came in over a period of about 3 seasons. But yeah, so it was either 99, 2000, or 2000, 2001. They've only been here 15 times, and they've only played 30 overall. It just hasn't happened all that much. The first half of their lifespan was in the non-balanced schedule era, where you didn't necessarily play everybody in the Western Conference every year at all, not just home or road, but sometimes you didn't play them at all. And then, since the 2013-14 season, when the balanced schedule started and you played them twice every year, that's been the most regular they played. And they haven't played in the last, almost, it's been 3 years since Minnesota's been here because of the pandemic and all that stuff. But it's been a while. Yeah, it's always been a series the Flyers have kind of dominated, but the Wild right now, I think, are the best they've ever been.
Yeah.
This season, they're not playing very well right now. Lost a few in a row here.
4. Yep.
Flyers might be catching them again at the right time tonight, but Bill Guerin seems to have figured it out. And, this is a team right now that's got one of its top forwards by the name of Ryan Hartman, and then their top goaltender is Cam Talbot. So they've made something happen here with this group. Obviously, they've got a lot of other key pieces, but a couple of guys the Flyers have had here the last couple of years that haven't led to much here in Philadelphia are doing well in Minnesota this year.
Well, Cam Talbot was right to not extend here in Philadelphia, and to bet on himself, and he bet on himself to get a starting job, and he got paid well in Minnesota. Couple off seasons ago when he signed that contract. I mean, that was a crazy year of the goalie carousel, and he landed right there. I mean, I think like moments after free agency opened, he signed his deal, and he was here for a very brief period of time.
Right.
I think what did he play, like 3 games maybe?
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
Yeah.
They brought him in. Basically, it was a deadline trade, was it? I don't know. It was somewhere late in the year. Flyers had been having some overall health issues with the goaltender, so they wanted to bring in somebody's solid for the end of the season, and he and Carter Hart know each other very, very well, so it was a good fit at the time. But now, you're right, he had played his way into a situation where he could find himself a starting job if he wanted to, and good on him going out there and finding it.
Yeah. And you look at this team, and while Bill Guerin will get a lot of credit for where they are right now, and he made some savvy moves in the last, since he's taken over the general manager job there from Paul Fenton, who was terminated, I guess, 2 seasons ago. But, the thing is a lot of what you see on this Minnesota team is the labor and work, drafting and development of Chuck Fletcher.
Brent Flair, and, a lot of other folks that are here. There are so many people here in this organization with the Flyers now that came from the Minnesota Wild that I wasn't even going to attempt to name them all today when we were putting out the game notes. I knew I'd forget somebody, and it was going to be inevitable. So a lot of it is the same guys, and you'll recall that everybody looks back and sees, okay, well, Minnesota, they never got past X number of spots in the playoffs, and okay, they fired Chuck Fletcher. Well, the reality of it was that the Wild, again, couldn't get over a plateau, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it was decided that in order to get over that plateau, they needed some fresh leadership in the GM chair. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. Paul Fenton came in and, he, lack of a better term, sort of flamed out. There ended up being issues there in terms of, professional conduct and whatnot. And, so he was out of there almost as fast as he came in. And Bill Guerin was in the right place at the right time. Attended a training camp here back in the day, did Bill Guerin.
PTO.
Yeah. So he is definitely trying to find the next gear for this team to get them over that hump. And, he may well have found it the way this year's been going for them. But, again, a lot of groundwork for this team, especially kind of the man of the hour right now for the Minnesota Wild. Jared Spurgeon will pass Nick Schultz for the team's franchise record in games played by a defenseman. A lot of stories out today about how he's drafted and developed by Chuck Fletcher and Brent Flair and their staff, and his coach in Houston when he was called up was Mike Yeo. So, that's, one guy right there that's a key part of this team that, was had a lot to do with the guys running the Flyers right now.
Yeah, I mean, and really a big element of this team and the reason why they've kind of taken that next step is high-end talent, right?
Yeah, yep.
And the high-end talent that we're talking about is a player that was taken 135th overall back in the 2015 NHL draft by Chuck Fletcher. That is Kirill Kaprizov. And, he was over in Russia, and they weren't sure when he was going to come over. He's a fifth-round pick. It's not the slam dunk. And they weren't sure if his skating was ever going to be there to be an NHL player.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like one off season, worked on it an incredible amount. And he's a guy that has no issues with skating at the NHL level, has incredible hands, incredible talent, leads the team in points. And he's a big reason why they are where they are. I mean, he's the straw that stirs the drink, and especially on that top line with Ryan Hartman, who is the center on that line. And Kaprizov, fresh off Calder at 23 years of age, where in 55 games last year, 27 goals, 24 assists, 51 points. So just a tick under a point per game player. And this year, well over in 50 games, 24 goals, 40 assists, and 64 points.
Yeah, this is a
wow.
This is a well-rounded team here in Minnesota, and you look at their up and down their scoring list. They've got I think about a dozen guys right now with 20 points or more. Only 3 of those guys have played more than 50 games. They've had a lot of guys miss a lot of games with COVID and other ailments, so you can tell this is a team effort. But that effort right now is led by Kaprizov. He's got an 11-point lead in terms of the team scoring race. And, there's things – you talk about things with a prospect that you can work on and things you can't. And obviously one of the things you can't teach is size. That's the old adage. You can't teach size. You can't teach, the height or whatever. But, skating is one thing that can improve even for a player after he's picked.
Look at Lindblom.
Yeah, exactly. You get them over – into your system from wherever they're at in Europe or whatever, and give them, some fresh instructions, some fresh coaching, some fresh input on things, and a lot of times something clicks, and that seems to be what's happened with him.
Yeah, and sometimes what they try and do is they just try and get rid of a lot of the extra movement that you don't need. We've talked about that with Matthew Strome, who was a Flyers pick. Skating not NHL ready, and that ultimately maybe what holds him back. Good bloodline there of hockey players. Bobby Brink's a guy that's got a different looking stride, but it doesn't look like it's one that's going to encumber him at the NHL level. He just kind of looks like a gamer all the time. Mm-hmm. Not every guy comes into the league skates like Paul Coffey.
Right? Absolutely.
And I mean, he just was effortless in the way he moved. Like Claude Giroux was an average skater. Was never a great skater, but his hockey IQ is so high and all those things. But before we get back to this game tonight, I want to bring something up.
Okay.
Because the Flyers tonight did something I think is so damn cool that I'm pissed off they didn't do it when I was in high school. All right. Now, I'll pound my own chest. I played in 4 Flyers Cups as a freshman at Malvern Prep, as a sophomore, junior, and senior at Westchester East High School.
Okay.
And I hear you 6.5 minutes. Settle down back there, Egan. Jesus, Murphy. That's like I'm hard of hearing. We're trying to do a show here. But Pat's yelling in our ears for the people that didn't hear him but hear us. So the Flyers tonight have gotten all the jerseys of all the teams that will be in the different categories of Flyers Cup. I think there's 4. A, AA, AAA and Quad A?
No, it's AAA, AAA, and girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
There
right.
are 4, but three boys, 1 girl.
Okay. So, and a player wore a different high school team's jersey into the rink tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to see what it looks like, check out Philadelphia Flyers on Twitter at NHL Flyers, and you'll see the great pictures there. And seeing, no, I didn't play at St. Joe's Prep, but seeing Giroux come in, and Nick Schultz's sons, by the way, St. Joe's Prep jersey was awesome. And then seeing, for instance, Travis Sanheim come in that Malvern Prep Friars jersey, or Keith Yandel in my other alma mater, Westchester East Vikings jersey. And Martin Jones coming Derek Broussard coming in the Westchester Ruston Golden Knights jersey. See, I have allegiance to 3 teams. I all of a sudden lost an ear, by the way.
Yeah, I did
too.
You? Yes, I did too.
We lost our stereo. Okay. Oh, he's messing with something? Okay. I just wanted to make sure everything was going out still. So I have allegiance to Westchester East, where I went, Malvern, where I went, and Westchester Ruston, where my son goes and where I coached for many years. So, but it looks so darn cool.
Yeah.
And I got to credit Joe Seville. Joe doesn't get a lot of credit. He gets a lot of crap. But Joe Seville kind of spearheaded this thing, and it is badass.
Yeah, it really is. It's cool to see. And it's getting a lot of traction on social media because you put these up. That's the one thing that I don't know if it would have been as effective when you played, because they would have had to take the pictures, and then they would have had to develop the film, and then they would have had to figure out a way to print 12 pictures in the next day's paper.
Yeah, which wouldn't have looked as good.
All this stuff coming out right now on Twitter and Instagram, the schools are picking it up. They're loving it, and it's a really great thing that all these guys got involved in here today.
All right, so I'm in the pickle barrel tonight.
Okay,
because where I graduated high school, Westchester East, is playing in the Chessmont final against the school my son goes to at Westchester Ruston, and where I coached at Westchester Ruston with my high school coach from Westchester East, Nick Russo, who started the program at Westchester Ruston. Keep track of all that. So my cousin's brother's uncle. So who do I root for tonight?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I got to root for Ruston.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go with what's current.
That's my district. I'm in. Even though I graduated from East by the skin on my chinny chin.
They don't ask how. What is it? They don't ask how. They ask how many or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. How did he get through? But I love it. I think it's so cool, and seeing those high school jerseys on NHL players walking into the rink tonight, I think is fantastic. And I'm getting dizzy from the one ear going in and one out. But anyway, we're going to pick up our
world problems over here.
Yeah, we'll pick up our radio audience. And how much time, Pat?
Has it been 6.5 minutes?
I don't know. It feels that long since Pat yelled at us.
Yeah, I don't know.
But, see, now he's not even listening.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it works here. But
he's unbelievable.
Yeah, we're on the stream right now on Twitter, and we're going to join the rest of the world here in just a few minutes.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Travis Sanheim.
Okay.
Because even though the Flyers didn't score the other night, like watching the game, I thought he played really well. He maybe just lacked a little bit of finish in that game. He had a couple really good scoring chances coming down that left side, and maybe puck rolled on him or just didn't get enough on it, shot it wide, whatever. But he's in position to make plays. And he's also shown, Bri, with that willingness to get up in the play, the ability not only to create scoring chances by being the shooter, but also a distributor on the rush.
Right.
He sent a couple of passes across in recent games that they've scored on, and few that the goalie had to make good saves on high-quality scoring chances. And the way he's looked of late, I know a lot of people were down on him, and he's a big, tall guy, and he's not physical. He's not a tremendous physical force, so some people look at that and go, why is he using that size, right? That's just not his game, although he is being a little bit more physical now. But I think he's playing some of his best hockey as an NHL player.
And, the other thing I don't want to let anybody lose track with on him is he's only 25 years old.
Yeah.
He's going to turn 26 here
How
this
many games played?
306 NHL games played. So you look at that and you say 26. Well, I know a lot of other players that are 26 and pretty good. Defensemen may take a little bit longer, for one thing. Not everybody's Ivan Provorov jumps right in. the other thing too is that again, in terms of where these guys are in their career, I mean, a lot of them lost a step with COVID. With losing that 3 months and then coming back and then another 6 months off and a really weird season last year. That did affect a lot of the younger players' development. So, he's definitely not anybody to give up on at this point. He's been able to enjoy a little bit of consistency this year with his D partner, as him and Ristolainen have been relatively healthy. But I think you improve the skill up front, and you see a lot of those opportunities get converted.
Yeah, and it's a good point about having consistency and partner with Risto, and knows he can jump in those plays, and Ristolainen will be back there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a comfort level. And then, he had a stretch with Phil Myers where they were really good together too. Mm-hmm. And both guys are elite skaters. Like Myers could fly for a big man. Sanheim, a really good skater as well. And we're going to join our radio audience here. And we are live at the East Food Hall, Wells Fargo Center. Brian Smith, Jason Myrtetus, Flyers and Wild here tonight as the homestand continues. This will be, game number 6 of the homestand? Is that right?
Yes, game number 6.
6 of 8.
Franchise record 8-game homestand. Got 2 more, one on Saturday and then one on Tuesday. Blackhawks here on Saturday. The Vegas Golden Knights next Tuesday night. And then the Flyers finally back on the road a week from tonight in Florida.
It was always when I was a season ticket holder and we had the shared, we split them 3 ways because I wasn't made of money out of college.
Yep.
And we would put all the tickets, the stapled pair together on a table. It was me, my brother, and my dad.
Okay.
And the guy that I would go with, my buddy Kevin Malloy, and we'd have a draft. We'd put all the tickets on the table. And I would always take, a couple of division games, but I like seeing opponents that didn't come in very often.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would grab like the Colorado Avalanche or the Los Angeles Kings or, those teams because I've seen the Rangers so many times in my life, or the Penguins.
Sure.
And there were some key ones you always wanted to get, but I would always go for some of those games. I'd cherry pick the really important games that I wanted, and then I would take those West Coast games, and I'd be really happy with it.
Yeah. You get a different look, right? You get
I want to see Mike Modano and the Stars, right?
Especially back then when, again, you didn't necessarily see every team every year. You might go a few years without seeing a Mike Modano or something like that. So that's a good. I like that overall approach.
Yeah, I was always a guy that I like to see a spectacle player play in person that I don't get to see often. Because we all got to see Yager, we got to see Lemieux, we get to see Crosby, whatever, right? But if a guy, coming in like Mike Modano was on the schedule, I'm going, okay, I want to see Mike Modano, great American-born player, won a cup in Dallas back in 2000, right?
99.
Was it 99?
Yeah,
okay, 99.
Yep.
Ken Hitchcock.
Yep.
And Joe Neuendijk, that great team, Eddie Belfour.
Mm-hmm.
So, I look at that team and I go, that's a team I want to see. And I always look for those spectacle-type players.
Yeah.
Now, it seems like every team in the league got one, which is good. Like we get to see Kaprizov tonight. And just the other night, when the Flyers played Edmonton, there's a couple of guys on that team. And Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl that are worth the price of admission, right?
Right, yeah.
And Ginla was one of those guys I liked.
That's the other thing, too, we hear when we hear all this complaining about how these aren't the Flyers of 20 years ago or whatever. And 20 years ago, the Flyers could get 6 of those guys on their roster with no problem.
Yeah,
pay. You can't do that nowadays. So, you have to work with what you got.
Yeah. The cap makes you, in a lot of ways, have to be a lot more creative in team building.
Team building and development.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is why you see what Tampa's done and back-to-back cups, and Pittsburgh earlier a couple of years ago with the back-to-back cups. It's difficult to do. But it is the Flyers and the Wild tonight here at Wells Fargo Center. Now, the Wild were riding a 4-game stinker, as they call it. Flyers are only riding a 1-game stinker. They lost their last one. I don't know why I decided to call it that. But
it's you can make statistics say anything you want.
I often do.
It is a remarkable thing.
That's how I had good numbers.
The Flyers are only on a 1-game losing streak. We'll ignore the 20 games before that.
Yeah, or the 3-12 27 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, you can make numbers say a lot of different things.
Yeah. Well, Minnesota, they come in tonight. Kirill Kaprizov leads them in scoring, but the last 4 games that they've lost, they lost to Ottawa 4-3. Now, these are all on the road with the exception of the last game. So they beat Edmonton 7-3. Then they lost to Ottawa in Ottawa. They lost to Toronto 3-1. They lost to Calgary 7-3, but it was a home and home. And they got Calgary 5-1 on the other side of it. But, I mean, look at all – they have 4 road games, Edmonton, Ottawa, Toronto, Calgary, back home for Calgary, now here out to Philadelphia, and they last played Tuesday. This could be it's kind of a weird spot.
It is,
from a schedule standpoint for a team. Yeah,
we were noticing that, I think, when we were looking at the schedule coming ahead for the Flyers a couple of games back, where they have to do that road trip, they have to go home, and then get right back at it coming out east again. They're going to get back home at the end of this month, have a nice long homestand. I think they'll settle down and we got to get back to where they were. But, again, numbers being what they are, 4-game losing streak, but they've only won once in their last 7.
Yeah.
And they're 3-7 in their last 10. They had a really nice 10-game unbeaten streak there where they lost 1 game in a shootout and won the other 9. That's really gotten them to where they are now. And they did that all with a lot of road games in there. They beat Colorado out, or they lost to them, I should say, in the shootout. But they beat the Chicago Blackhawks 3 times. Beat the Rangers, beat the Islanders. They beat the Capitals. So they've got something going right now in Minnesota. And again, they're just trying to make sure that they keep themselves pointed in the right direction to be in a good spot after the trade deadline. And we'll see what happens. This is one of the one of the widely reported possible destinations for Claude Giroux. So you get a good look at tonight at what he might be playing with, I guess. But it's a good thing they have going there that they haven't really had a whole lot of as of late up there.
Of the teams that have been reported as being possible destinations, I would, if I was Claude Giroux, and I'm not, I would rank them as my least best option.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado, best team in the NHL, right? You look at even St. Louis, good team, not on the same level, but some familiarity with Braden Shen and Craig Berube, blah, blah, blah.
And Cup experience.
Yeah. Tampa Bay Lightning has been mentioned. Florida has been mentioned, one of the great teams that scores over 4 goals a game. No other team does that in the league. You look at a team like Carolina has been rumored, second best team in the NHL. All those teams I would pick ahead of the Minnesota Wild, but this has been a team that's been reported. And right now they are hanging on to a playoff spot, but it's getting tenuous here.
It is, yeah. I mean,
this is a pivotal spot in the schedule.
Yeah, it's in the West, it's a little bit less cutthroat than it is in the East.
Yeah.
But still, you cannot, you can't go out there and just kind of cruise your way through and think you're still going to get there.
They're 2 points out of being out of the playoff.
There's a lot of good teams out there, yeah, and something can swing on any given night. And again, it's a hard spot for them right now in their overall schedule. But they've got 4 teams on the outside banging on the door to get in. But they've also got 2 other teams in the Pacific that would take, like Edmonton and Anaheim are back there banging in. Well, if they move up into the divisional spot, they'll go and knock out the Pacific teams and not necessarily Minnesota. They're more watching the Predators and the Stars. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of jockeying for position there, but they have some margin for error right now in Minnesota. And again, looking at their schedule, I'm thinking they're going to settle down toward the end of the month here. They just got to get through, again, this tough stretch, but they cannot get themselves in too deep a hole.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's going to be interesting because, even though the Flyers got shut out this past game for the 5th time this season against Edmonton, a lot of shots. Koskinen had a nice game, but they got to make things more difficult on the opposing netminder. We'll see if they're able to do that tonight. And boy, this is an interesting night here because we can see just about everybody's face for the first time in 10 days shy.
Isn't it nice?
Of 2 years.
It has been a long and winding road, but the masks are off here at Wells Fargo Center, at least as far as the mandate goes. It's kind of strange walking around downstairs before the game. We see a lot of the same people every game, But some of them I haven't seen without masks on in 2 years, and had to kind of lock in on who they were because a couple of guys grew beards, and I didn't know it because they've been under the mask for 2 years and crazy stuff like that. So it's really refreshing and one more step closer to a semblance of normal, we hope.
Yeah, it's the whole world shut down on March 13th, 2020.
Yep.
Flyers' last home game without masks was March 10th, 2020. Until tonight.
Yeah, I remember when it happened. You're thinking, oh no, is this going to be 2 years? And this is where we're at. 2 years.
Brian Burke was the only one that I heard said it was going to be 2 years. Now the president of the Pittsburgh Penguins, he was working for Sportsnet at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a vacation booked in May to go to Turks and Caicos with the family, and we thought we'd be good. May of 2020.
I remember thinking they're never going to cancel the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they did.
Wow.
Rudy Gobert. All right, stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, they've got the countdown to face-off between the Flyers and the Wild and all the first period action. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All right, stream.